the reality of being on the road is that you're grinding like a normal person. You're in a hotel room or a work environment or a co-working space trying to hustle, but you're in a super cool place with really interesting people, and you get to have some really great adventures along the way.
This is Debbie, and welcome to another episode of The Offbeat Life, where I speak to inspiring individuals who ditched the norm to become location independent. We'll learn how to create sustainable laptop lifestyles from the experts that will help us achieve freedom from our 9 to 5. Hey friend, are you looking to land a remote gig ASAP? Well, did you know that we not only have a ton of online jobs you can apply to on our site, but now we are also sending them straight to your inbox. I'm happy to announce that we will be sending our email subscribers legit online jobs every Wednesday. We have done hours of research, so you don't have to. If you want to be the first one to hear about the remote gigs we find, go to theoffbeatlife.com to subscribe. On this week's episode, I speak with Chapin, who is an online entrepreneur and podcaster who has lived primarily in Nicaragua since 2005, running surf tours. Over the last 5 years, he has been podcasting and starting online businesses. His podcast is called Misfits and Rejects, where he talks about lifestyle design of expats, travelers, entrepreneurs, and adventurers. Listen on to find out how Chapin has created a unique online business as a surfer. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to be here with Chapin. Hi, how are you?
Hey Debbie, how are you?
I am wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit more about you and why you live an offbeat life?
Well, I found myself just young and excited to travel. And once I got that first taste of, I'd say, life on the road or life as an expat, it really sort of solidified a lifestyle that I wanted to pursue. And from that moment on, I just started trying to design my life in a way that I could maintain myself in like another country or a life on the road. And it's been kind of my mission for the last, I don't know, I'd say 15, 20 years. And then the last 5, I've really started honing in on like the online business side of things and trying to make my life location independent through that.
When was the moment when you finally realized, when you had your aha moment, that you wanted to go into this lifestyle full time and kind of ditch your regular life, the regular job, and start traveling the world and start your own business?
The online moment came for me when I had visited my friend in Costa Rica, and he was living in this little jungle hut on the beach in Puerto Viejo, Costa Rica. And I just saw how simple the life was, and it really was just in line with my value systems and how I wanted to design my life. So that was really my aha moment. And then having gone through years of making businesses in Nicaragua and like Central America, third world countries, it was a great lifestyle. And I really liked that lifestyle. But I had my second aha moment when I came across Pat Flynn, searching online how to become like more location independent for my job, create passive income. And when I stumbled into this world of being a digital nomad and making money online, the light bulb went off. And that was like more of a sustainable model I felt for me and what I really wanted out of life.
How did you decide what you actually wanted to do, right? Because when you look online, even going into articles and podcasts and everything else in between, there's so many different options that you're given. But then it becomes paralysis of analysis because it's too much. How did you do that? How did you decide what was right for you?
Well, Pat Flynn became a really huge influence on me, and I was just listening to every single podcast he did, absorbing all his information and still really striving with the goal to create passive income. I really wanted to generate like $500 a month through online something that was passive, because that was what I really kind of needed to sustain myself on the road in a lot of these places like Thailand or whatever. And so he first started talking about ebooks. So my mind started going in that direction. And then I heard a podcast he did with David Siteman Garland about creating online courses. And once I heard that, like every cell in my body said, that's what you should do. Create an online course with a subject that I know really well, which was surfing at the time, or is still. So I just started going down that path. And I mean, it took way longer than I expected. My goal was to start generating passive income through an online course within like 6 months of learning about how to build an online course. And then in the end, it took, 2.5 years and, 3 more years of trying to figure out how to market it to actually generate, passive income through it.
Well, it's incredible that you heard about this and then you just dive into it. And I think for a lot of us, we think it's going to take this amount of time, and then we realize years later that it's going to take longer than what we had expected it to be. What was that process like? What was the first thing that you did to actually become someone who could create a successful course?
Well, I had to go through and learn the tech things, that all these salespeople to say is like, oh, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to learn how to like use Keynote or use ScreenFlow. And I just started chipping away at every single, third-party app I needed to create the actual course and trying to understand it and figure out how it worked. And so for me, it really became, as you talked about being overwhelmed in the beginning, really just having to focus on one thing at a time, because the overwhelm was going to be just so incredible. And I was getting overwhelmed with just, for example, trying to learn Keynote. And so I would spend, sometimes months just trying to really master, each app and thing I needed to create my course until I became proficient enough to then put all the pieces together and then start focusing on the content. And that's kind of how it went for me.
So how did you actually start launching this? Because you took all of this time to create this product that you hope people would buy, right? What was your strategy like in marketing it?
Well, I bought David Siteman Garland's course on how to create awesome online courses. And he kind of took me through like a rough draft of how to market it once it was created. So I kind of started with that rough draft, which was a slow process that wasn't really working. Like I was reaching out to my like YouTube channel subscribers because I didn't really have an email list yet. And then David brought in on his like bonus section of this course some of his clients who were using different strategies for marketing. And one guy's really just seemed like the path I should take, which was using Facebook ads and a lead magnet. And so I created my lead magnet and I just started marketing my lead magnet, and it was like, it went viral. I was getting 100 new leads a day, and that lasted for like 9 months. So I generated close to like 5,000 emails in a very, 9-month period. And then once I had those leads and I had my course created, I just started marketing it to my email list through like a, 3-part video series leading up to the actual pitch, all just steps I'd followed through, David's course. And it worked to an extent, like I guess the only satisfaction I had from it was that I made my money back on what I paid David to, learn all this information. But it definitely wasn't like the $20,000 to $30,000 payday that I thought I was going to have.
It takes a lot of effort and also money to do all of that and to learn it. But now you have all of the skills to really market new courses that you're going to make or will make, right?
Absolutely.
And also make sure you all check out the extended interview, because I'm going to be picking his brain, Chapin's brain, more about how he created those lead magnets and Facebook ads and how to create a successful course. So we're going to be digging deeper into that with you.
Awesome.
Now, let's go back to when you didn't have your ideas yet and you still were confused, like most of us, before we got into this lifestyle, right? What were you doing before, actually? I love learning people's day jobs before they got into this lifestyle because it's always interesting.
I was actually living in Nicaragua, and I had been running surf tours in Nicaragua for quite a few years. And times were changing. All the people I loved had left the business that we had created together. And it was just time for a lifestyle change. And simultaneously, my mother had gotten sick. And so it was time for me to come back to California. So through 2014, I was just kind of like, cruising around California. And then I was desperate to get back on the road. And I was just sitting in California, had like an odd job just because I had to be in California to be with my mom. And I was just like, I need to get back out there. What am I going to do? So that's when I found Pat. I just started Googling. I didn't necessarily want to go back to Nicaragua. And I was desperate to get back on the road, and then found Pat, and I moved straight to Thailand where like, it's kind of mecca for all the digital nomads yearly. Everyone kind of migrates there. And I just started trying to like network and meet people and absorb all of the knowledge that they had on like how to become a digital nomad.
No, a lot of people really want to get to the point where you are, right? And we look at all these articles about how to become a digital nomad, how to find work online. But can you tell us what the reality is when you are in this type of lifestyle? What is it like living as a digital nomad? What has your experience been? The good, the bad, and the ugly?
I think the reality is, well, I mean, there's two parts to the question, like to get started and then the reality. Getting started, you can teach English online. That's, I think, fairly easy for most Americans or Western, English speaking people. So getting into it, like that could be an easy first step. If you don't want to do that and you have a skill set that you can market, like as a freelancer, for example, like you understand SEO or website design or something like that, that's another barrier to entry that's easy for someone who has that skill set. I mean, if you're like me and you didn't have any of those skills, like to use a computer, then the English, is going to be the obvious option. The reality of being on the road is that all the photos you see of people like with their laptops on a beach under a palm tree writing like, this is my office for the day, like is bullshit. Like most of it is sitting in a hotel room, whether you have a desk or not, trying to like, get shit done and try to make it work. And it's not as glamorous in the sense of like your work environment as people portray it. However, you make your own schedule. And, if you only want to work 4 hours a day, you're usually in a tropical place that you do have a affordable bungalow on the beach that you can walk out and go enjoy the sun and the surf and, or go for a hike. So I think that is more of a realistic picture of like, you're grinding like a normal person. You're in a hotel room or a work environment or a co-working space trying to hustle, but you're in a super cool place with really interesting people and you get to have some really great adventures along the way.
I think for the most of us who really stick it out in this lifestyle, it's about the freedom, right? Because like you said, it's all BS that we're working by the ocean. Honestly, it would be horrible to do that because first of all, you don't want to get sand on everything.
Exactly.
And it can get really hot when you're underneath that sun and you're working. That's not very comfortable. And I like to make fun of myself a lot because whenever I have to travel for work, I take those photos and be like, this is actually not reality, guys. This is just for you to want this lifestyle. But everything else is just us grinding on our desk or somewhere that's not as fabulous, like you just said. And honestly, I like to make fun of that a lot. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So now it seems like you've started a few companies and few businesses and you've been really a nomad for a long time. When you are doing all of these different things that you have done with your life, what has been the biggest setback that you've encountered that really kind of pushed you down and how did you get over it?
Learning the tech. I mean, I was in Nicaragua. We didn't have internet. I've never had any interest in computer games or anything like that. Using a computer was just a need to like communicate with family when I was on the road. So my internet use was like, once every few months, just going to an internet cafe and, letting my family know I was still alive. So when it became time and I knew for a fact that this is what I wanted to do, I definitely wanted to create something online, generate passive income, or at least generate something that created a location independent business for myself. I had to go to square one. I bought a laptop. I sat watching YouTube videos on how to use my laptop. I sat, for years on YouTube trying to just learn everything I needed to. And it's still like that to this day. I mean, every step of the way, every new thing that I need to, implement or incorporate into, the system that I have, it's a giant learning process for me that I struggle with because it's frustrating because I look at everybody else saying like, oh, like all these millennials like have it, good because they kind of grew up with it. I was like right at the tail end where it's like, the technology wasn't quite there yet and I didn't have any interest in it to begin with. So I really feel I started from, square one, ground zero, and have created over the last 5 years, at least a high school education with how to use technology and how it all fits together. within this, online digital nomad space.
But I love the fact that you're so determined and also really resilient that even though it took you how many years, you still went with it. You are definitely a learner and you also implement it, because I think for a lot of people, it really gets you down, right? Especially when it's something that you're not good at. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to go into something that you don't know a lot about and then you keep going. It's hard to motivate yourself a lot of times when that happens.
Absolutely. And I think like you, Debbie, just, that the freedom and the allure of the road is a driver and keeps us focused and motivated. And, through those hard times, you still you weigh the options. Like, what am I going to do? Go back and get a 9 to 5 at this point? I'm a 40-year-old man. Like, I've never had a 9 to 5 aside from like little side jobs to like make ends meet when I need the money. Like, it's just for me at this point, not a reality, and I have to make it work. It's just, there's no other option at this point. So you stick with it and you grind and you figure it out, and you have a lot of down years. And then, with the skills that I've developed, I think, my day will come, and I just keep grinding and hoping.
It definitely, the alternative of going back to a 9 to 5 is a lot worse than what you're currently facing. So for the most part, that's usually what we think about if we're faced with all of these obstacles. So I definitely get that.
Absolutely.
Now, we all have that what now moment, and I'm sure you've had it too, whether it was throughout the years when you were trying to build this business and then realizing, oh my gosh, have I gone in over my head? What was yours like, and how did that go?
I mean, I have what now moments every single day, and I deal with it by like standing up and I walk circles around my kitchen, or I go wash the dishes, hoping for like another light bulb moment, another sort of idea to come into my head that I can implement. And so, yeah, like I said, on a daily, it's real. Like, what do I do now? Like, I don't have another question I can ask Google to help me get through this process that I don't understand. And then on a bigger scale, it's like, what now? I've done this 5 years, and I just spoke about this on my own podcast, and it hasn't really worked in the way I thought it would. I generate passive income. It's not $500 a month, but it's still a little bit, which doesn't sustain my life on the road. It more or less just pays for itself. So what now? We just talked about perseverance, which is important, but it's also really important that you know when to fold your hand and, take that thing that you had created, put it to bed, put it to rest, maybe kill it altogether, pivot, change, and start something new. So my what now moment currently is trimming all the fat off of, this little enterprise I've built online, which is surf instruction, surf progression technique, which is online surf instruction for surfers, and automating that. So it's like, I literally don't do anything anymore and just let it kind of pay for itself and be helpful to all the individuals who want to utilize it, and start building something new. Cause yeah, like now at this point, I have the knowledge of creating courses. I have knowledge of marketing. I have knowledge of SEO. I have knowledge of building websites, and now it's time to pivot, transition, and just start anew. So, 2020 is going to be a year of, maybe starting 1 to 2 new businesses online, trying to generate a few streams of income, and just try to maintain life on the road.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Because you've said, you've built up this business and maybe you want to pivot.
5 years, I see it fully automated. I see multiple flows of income, multiple cash flows coming in from various enterprises I've built, or, online businesses, and being, I don't want to say a real or legit digital nomad, but I'm in, these peer groups with what I consider like real digital nomads who have built very successful businesses and really don't ever have to do the side work that I have to do to maintain my lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Like, that's where I'm going to be in 5 years. I will be like them, one of their, peers who has created something more sustainable.
I think having a mentor and people around you that understand the hustle and the struggle is so crucial to making this work, because it can also get really lonely. And it's not like a day job where you have coworkers or a boss that's constantly nagging you to do things or even supporting you. That's why I think having these people around you is really crucial.
Yeah, and that's a good point that I'd like to touch upon because I was like, again, living this fishing village in Nicaragua, trying to be a digital nomad or at least build my first business. And there wasn't any like-minded people around me. I mean, there's tons of entrepreneurs because you have to be entrepreneurial living out of your own country and sustaining yourself. But I didn't have anybody to talk to about, how to use ScreenFlow and, what should I do next? And I found this group called the Dynamite Circle, which is like an international mastermind. And that has been just a game changer. It's just meeting these people and hearing their stories and networking with them and utilizing some of their services that they provide. I mean, that's where I think I really found my tribe, found my group of people that I'm going to stick with and be a part of for a long time to come.
Absolutely. And also, I think when you have a podcast like this, where we're interviewing people who are doing something that we want to do and we get inspired by their story and their journey, is also a really great way to create that community as well. That's why I love podcasting, because I get to meet people like you. And it's pretty interesting when you have that type of dynamic as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was just in Bangkok recently and, kind of like at that, what next, what now moment, and just praying that I had an epiphany. And it came, day 5 of, multiple seminars and just networking and people talking about their sales funnels and email sequences as like light bulb moment. I get it. Now I know what to do. And then I went up to Chiang Mai and I implemented it and it totally didn't work. But it was still, I think, the light bulb moment that I was looking for. And just, it was great. I wouldn't have had it, is the point, if I hadn't have been within that network of people.
I think it's also just doing something, right? Just a task that somebody pushes you to do, because even if it doesn't work, at least it got you off your butt and to do something productive for a little while and you don't feel so bad about yourself. And that usually gets you going for the next few weeks or even a few days, which is really helpful.
It's so true. I mean, like we talked about earlier, being in that hotel room by yourself, not knowing what to ask Google next, and just in front of a wall, not knowing how to get around it. Yeah, it's easy to like kind of lose productivity and get down on yourself. So having that network around you, kind of cheering you on, rallying for you, like you can do this, think about it like this, it makes such a difference.
So let's talk a little bit more about mental health, because I don't think that's touched up on enough in our industry. What would you say is the one thing that has really been a setback for you in that sense? And how do you usually deal with it?
I think for me, like I fell in love with the road a long time ago. And so the road itself for me is just a warm blanket I can wrap myself in. If I have a negative thought, if I feel myself getting depressed, like, oh, I'm not smart enough to do this. I don't know if I'll ever achieve this because, I'm not good at technology. There's always, a local pub with some interesting people to go chat to that just brings me so much peace and joy to like, because I'm on the road and, my podcast is basically similar to yours, which is interviewing interesting expats and people around the world doing, unique things and making a living doing it. So I always have that to fall back on. So I never find myself depressed, I guess, or feeling like something is unaccomplishable. I only feel that way when I come back to the States and I'm just like, what am I doing? Like I'm back here again because I have an opportunity to always make money back in the States being an American. And it's fairly easy to make, a little bit of side cash in America. So when I do come through and I see family and I, spend a month or two making a little bit of money to get myself through the next few months, it's tremendously depressing. And I don't have that sort of local bar that I can go talk to an expat at.
So coming back to the US is your version of being in a 9-to-5 in that sense.
Exactly. I mean, just being in America is like being in a 9-to-5, just, And I don't mean to sound negative towards America. Like it's my home country and there's so many beautiful things about it and beautiful people who live here. And I mean, like I said, it's one of the easiest places to make money if you apply yourself, but it's just not a place I ever fit in and feel like, I want to be here.
Well, I'm sure that feeling is shared by a lot of people, especially the ones that want to leave their 9-to-5 right now and go off on the road just like you.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about creating income here in the United States, how much did you save before you set off to do your long-term travel, and how were you able to budget it to last?
So I've always had a rule of having at least $2,000 in savings when I land in a new place. $2,000 to $3,000 is kind of my comfort zone. And then budgeting wise, most places that I prefer to travel, which are, third world countries, street food is generally very cheap. Accommodations I can usually keep between, $5 and $10 a night. And I'm a walker. I like taking local transportation. So it's like if I'm moving from one country to another, I'm usually not flying. I'm usually overlanding it and taking long bus rides or hitchhiking, or I like to move very slowly and keep my budget nowadays my budget's at like $20 a day. Back when I was, going really hard at this lifestyle stuff, like it was, in the $10 a day range, which was super hard to do. And I think really not that sustainable for a digital nomad who's trying to build something. That's more for like a traveler. But as a digital nomad, and if I keep my budget around $20, like I'm good as gold. Like I'm eating well. I'm having a few beers at night. I have a comfortable private room, sometimes with a private bath. And yeah, that's, leaving and landing in that country with like $2,000 to $3,000.
Yeah, that reminds me of a book that Nomadic Matt wrote about living off of $50 a day, and you're doing it at $25 a day. So you definitely have some good secrets for that, huh?
Yeah, it's not a secret. It's just like, I don't do anything that I really don't want to do. And I think for a lot of people who are traveling, they want to do a lot of touristic things, see things, museums, for example, or go on like paid, like guided tours. And my enjoyment is just like sitting and absorbing a culture and like watching it go by. And I don't do like elephant tours in Chiang Mai. It's just not where my head's at. It's not enjoyable to me. And so I save a lot of money doing it like that.
And I think long-term travel, you also have that luxury to take your time to sit around and really absorb the culture. Like you said, if you only have 5 days, I don't know. For me, I definitely don't do that anymore. In my early 20s, I was like, oh my God, I got to see everything. Everything has to be so fast. I got to tick off as many countries. And now I'm like, I don't even know how many countries I've been in. Honestly, I don't really care. I want to know more about the country than how many I'm going to go to. So I think it's also different as time passes and your priorities become different.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, I think, a normal sort of growth and evolution in us as humans. Things are going to change, and that's okay.
Yeah. Now let's fast forward to 40 years from now, Chapin, and you're looking back at your life. What legacy would you like to leave, and what do you want to be remembered for?
I get this a lot. I don't have any desire to leave a legacy or be remembered for anything in particular. I think a byproduct of what I am doing with my podcast, since I'm recording myself and I keep my listeners in the loop with like the evolution of my business and my life and my lifestyle, both personally and professionally, that will be a legacy that I leave. But it's not something that is motivating to me or drives me in any way. You hear a lot of these gurus talking about the legacy, like Pat Flynn talks about it, and Chris Ducker. And it's like, that's not me, man. I don't care.
Well, it doesn't have to be in a big scale, it could just be for people that really know and love you. Like, what would they remember you as?
A good friend's uncle once said something that was really profound.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, dating and the females that you have in your life that maybe just doesn't work out. He said, if you imagine all the females that you dated and it didn't work out with sitting at a table together, you always want their conversation to be positive about you. Mm. And I think if you talk about legacy and you talk about how I want to be perceived after I'm dead, I want everyone sitting at the table who knew me personally, loved me, says only positive things about me. And I only ever meant to do positive, loving things to the individuals that are sitting at that table and the world in general.
You see, so that's a good one. So what are you currently working on that is really exciting to you?
I'm currently like pitching my podcast out to bigger enterprises, maybe taking it in-house somewhere is a thought I've had, which I think sounds interesting, to get a little bit more financial support, allowing me a little bit more freedom to kind of stay in one place longer and really, I think, interview all the people that I want to interview, because, a lot of these little backwater towns have some fascinating expats that I'd love to spend more time with. I'm also developing a few new ideas to like put out there online, like a supplement company, and just things that I'm really passionate about. Within this industry, a lot of people are talking about, you got to test the market, you got to do what the market wants. Just building brands because you want to build them isn't the right way to do it. And there's so much truth to that. But at the same time, for me as an entrepreneur, like, I can't get behind anything I don't believe in. So I'm taking the approach of, finding the things that I know I can at least stay focused on and build and follow through on to deliver to the market, rather than trying to just like find what the market wants. So the supplement company I'm really passionate about, that'll be all online, all automated, probably do it through like fulfillment by Amazon. And then, I have a few other products that I'm considering. I might be going, instead of, digitized service based businesses, to more product-based services, physical product-based services.
Now, if our listeners want to know more about you, where can they find you?
Misfitsandrejects.com. That's my podcast and place of which you can hear about me. I give you, like, every 10 episodes an update on myself. I mean, if you happen to have an audience member who's a surfer and wants some online surf coaching, you can please reach out at Surf Progression Techniques. I'm more than happy to help you with whatever questions you may have. And if you want me to make you like a video analysis of your surfing, kind of like, imagine the golf swing. People film themselves swinging a golf club. Well, a lot of my clients film themselves surfing, send me the footage, and I create little instructional videos for them.
That is a really cool idea. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you sharing your incredible journey with us.
Debbie, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this interview with Chapin. Make sure to visit theoffbeatlife.com. Again, that's theoffbeatlife.com to get the extended interview where he shares how to create a successful online course. Hey friend, have you been wanting to start a podcast? I know it can be overwhelming in the beginning. Believe me, I have been there. Lucky for you, we have created a new site called howtocreateapodcast.com that shares a ton of freebies that can help you get started. From launching, growing to monetizing, we share it all in one place. Visit howtocreateapodcast.com for more information. Hey listeners, thank you for listening to this episode, and I'm so thankful for your support. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode and get suggestions on guests, topics we can discuss, and so much more. Feel free to reach out at hello@theoffbeatlife.com and let me know what you'd like to hear. If you like the show, don't forget to give us some love and review on iTunes. Thank you again for being a part of this journey, and I can't wait to hear how your location independent story will unfold.